to Jat-Harriet, and welcome to the Museum of Harriet Tubman. If you think that the only thing special about Harriet Tubman is the Underground Railroad, you're mistaken. There's so much more to her, and it will blow your mind. Let's get started. Let's start how it all began. Harriet was born into the state on Dorchester, Maryland in 1820 or 1821. Slaves were taken from Africa, and the slave owners didn't want to know anything about them, so that's when they kind of don't know when they were born. When she was born, her original name was Araminta, but in 1831 she received the name Harriet. When she was 7 years old, she was assigned to this white lady named Miss Susan. And so when Harriet didn't clean the house during the day, she was to blame and beaten. She took care of the baby during the day, and so when the baby was crying during the night, she was beaten. This kind of went on for a while, but eventually she was returned to the plantation to her master. Let's move on. Now here's a little interesting fact. Whenever Harriet Tubman would like to sit down, her favorite drink to drink was tea with butter, as you see here. And what she also, the silverware she liked to use was this kind of type, which was complimented from the Smithsonian. So that kind of gives a little, like, the lifestyle, how she ate and drank. Harriet and all her family belonged to a man named Edward Broaddus. So after Harriet went back to the plantation, she became a strong African-American woman, both physically and emotionally. One day, Harriet was on the plantation and a male slave was trying to sneak away, but an overseer caught him. The overseer told Harriet to tie him up, but she refused, so the overseer threw a heavy load at her that hit her in the middle of her forehead. She went and slipped into a coma for several weeks and recovered slowly, but suffered from blackouts and nightmares during the night for the rest of her life. In 1833, Edward Broaddus died, so the ownership of Harriet and her family was passed down to his son. Harriet convinced her new master to get a job off the plantation to make money. Her master let her do this, but took a very large sum of what she made, but still got to keep just a little bit. In 1844, she married a black man named John Tubman, so she moved into his little cabin. But in reality, she realized that they had two totally different priorities. All she ever wanted to do was be free, to go live in the North with her and her family. But John was just too worried about his freedom and being in jeopardy of everything. So he told his new wife that if she ever tried to escape, he would report her to her master. In 1849, Broaddus' son died, so then Harriet's fears became a reality. She realized that her and her entire family would be sold to pay off the debts. So she ran. She went to the nearest house that was rumored to be part of the Underground Railroad. So the lady who lived there gave her directions to the next safe house. So over the period of the next few days, her and a couple of strangers she never knew helped her to get to the North. They all opposed slavery and wished the abomination of it. At one safe house, she had us pretend like she was a servant to ease some suspicion. So she had to hike through swamps and woodlands and just disgusting things. And after a 100-mile journey, she quote, "I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person now that I was free. There was such glory over everything. The sun came like gold through the trees and over the fields. And I felt like I was in heaven." Harriet Tubman. Harriet settled in Philadelphia and took a job washing dishes at a hotel. She saved up her money in hope of returning to the South and getting her family and helping them get into the North. And in doing so, she met famous abolitionists like John Brown, who lived 1800 to 1859, and Frederick Douglass, who lived 1817 to 1891. So in doing so, she became the famous conductor of the Underground Railroad and went back for slaves so they can cross into Pennsylvania's borders and feel what she felt when she became a free slave. In 1850, Harriet made her first trip to the South. She returned to her plantation in order to rescue her brothers and their families from slavery. Another time, she went back for her parents. Another time, she tried to bring back her husband, but found out that he had remarried and was not interested in going anywhere with her. And as you see, there's a thimble. This was used, she was so close for all her fellow slaves because they would all just go to the South and what they had on their backs. Harriet made a total of 19 trips into the South over a period of 10 years. She guided more than 300 slaves to freedom. She took chances of being captured, killed, or returned to her owner, but she never lost focus. Now this is a replica of the water poster of Harriet Tubman way back when. Now you see, she was worth $40,000. Now back then that was like $2 million. So you see the description of her they put. She is a conductor of the Underground Railroad that leads slaves up, north, and away from our plantations, causing a shortage in laborers. She threatens to shoot her passengers who want to make the right decision and turn back. She never allowed of our slaves to escape her grasp. This illiterate woman attends the insolent anti-slave meetings. The sooner she is turned in, the better it is for all us Southerners. During the Civil War, Harriet Tubman tried to help in every way or fashion she could. She volunteered as a cook, nurse, and laundress for Union troops who had been over Beaumont, South Carolina. Harriet was also a spy conducting several successful raids and missions. In June 1863, she led a group of Union gunboats by black soldiers on a raid up the Combahee River in South Carolina. They removed mines from the river, destroyed Confederate supplies, and rescued 750 slaves to their freedom. Nearly all that were freed in this mission would later join the Union Army. This was a very interesting tactic Harriet Tubman would use. So as we know, she was a spy. So she would always try to overhear, Confederate leaders overhearing their plans and who they're going to attack and when and where. But sometimes she would be discovered. So when she would be discovered, she would act like a crazy person, act like she doesn't know where she is, and for some reason would always talk about pie. Well, any pie in particular, but mostly apple pie. So, after hearing her crazy, comments and pies, they would eventually let her go. So in 1865, when the North had finally won the war, so Harriet believed that the government about owed her $1,800 for all of her wartime. Considering all the slaves she recruited, she deserved to be paid. But the government refused to give her the money. Even when the secretary, William Seward, given her appeal and tried to get her the money that she deserved, they still turned her down. They wouldn't accept the fact that she was such a big part of the Civil War. She deserved to be paid. As a result of this outstanding appeal, Harriet Tubman moved to Auburn, New York, where she sold fruit and vegetables and made them in her garden. People welcomed her into their homes, bought her goods, and listened to her wild stories of the Underground Railroad. In 1867, a biography of Harriet Tubman was made, called The Scenes in the Life of Harriet Tubman by her friend, Sarah Bradford. Now this book talked about all her accomplishments before and during the Civil War. And there are quotes from her friends like Frederick Douglass and John Brown that you have seen before. And it also talks about the money she earned from the sale. She also has talks about the money she earned from the sales of this book and how she made it to build schools for blacks and makes facilities for slaves. Now, a quote that she made from the Underground Railroad was, "I never ran my train off the track." This is a medal and silk shawl given to Harriet Tubman by Queen Victoria. This is the first African Methodist episode of Zorn Church that Harriet Tubman founded. Harriet Tubman died March 10th, 1911. This is her tombstone and all that it says. The questions and answers. Why does Harriet wear a scarf? Because of the gash from the stone. Did she have any children? No. When did she escape from the sword the first time? Her late 20s to early 30s.